Saturday Social, brought to you by EA Sports FC with PlayStation 5.
Now, Joe, we're a decent way into the season now, and we have a football expert, we're calling him, in Statman Dave. Yeah, two football experts. Although, after this item, we'll let you be the judge of that in terms of how this goes.
Yeah.
But we thought it was the perfect opportunity to rank some of the top players in Europe, because we're at a sort of pause with the international break, aren't we? So, do you want to explain how this one's going to work?
Yes, Smithy, the whiteboard is out. As you can see, we've got 1 to 10 in front of Dave and Fuad. And what we're going to go through Dave's 10 choices as his best 10 players in Europe right now.
Current form, we're doing it on?
I think it's got to be based on this season,
Yeah,
really.
I think it's tough in a sense, because as soon as I sent the list in, I thought I've missed out loads of players.
Yeah, this is
But this
really
is
hard.
it's tough. It's a tough one.
Really hard. So we get Dave's thoughts. Fuad, I want you annihilating some of these players. Because I've seen a rough selection, and
Not looking good.
it's interesting. It's interesting. Should we start at 10?
Yeah.
In reverse order.
I think at number 10, I want to get defenders into this list. That's why we've not got, 10 strikers.
Yeah,
Score all the goals. So try to make it a little bit balanced.
Okay,
And I think
fair
this man was absolutely pivotal in Manchester City's Champions League win. He's not played too much this season.
Barely
but
at all.
when he's back at Manchester City, the way that he plays the role is absolutely, he's defining a new position. That's John Stones. So I'm going to put him at number 10.
Number 10.
You've got John Stones at 10. Best this season, and he's only played one Premier League.
Yeah, I mean, me and Joe love John Stones. We sing his praises regularly. But if we did it on current form, he's only had 2 appearances, and only one of those has been in the Premier League.
Yeah, I was judging it on kind of the last maybe 6 months of the season.
Okay,
Like,
all right,
not
Yeah,
just this season.
Yeah.
'Cause we've only
Amazing talent for last season.
exactly.
Yeah.
We've got to look at a little bit further afield, because it's a bit unfair to judge John Stones there. But his performance against Bayern Munich in the Champions League as a libero, Real Madrid was absolutely fantastic, and teams couldn't deal with him moving out of centre-back and moving into midfield. Nobody's worked it out yet.
Yeah.
So I think that redefining a new tactical position in the world of football is the reason why he's number 10.
Fuad, thoughts on John Stones at 10?
I like it, but I know there's another centre-back on the list, so I'm curious to hear why William Saliba, you've technically got him over John Stones. Now, can you actually look me dead in the face and say Saliba is better than John Stones?
Well, I think William Saliba, in terms of...
He teed it up perfectly, by the way. He's never been on the show before. He's so 10 to 9. I like
You've
that.
got to look at his performances against Erling Haaland. Haaland is one of the best centre-forwards we've ever seen in European football. The way that he dealt with him last weekend was absolutely sublime. Haaland didn't have a shot on goal, didn't score any goals, didn't get any assists.
I agree with that.
I think with William Saliba right now, we can see a player that could have a Virgil van Dijk-esque sort of role in that Arsenal team.
The problem is, I look at John Stones and I can comfortably say I would put him in amongst the world's best defenders right now. I think world class. He's shown that last year.
Saliba amongst the world's best defenders right now.
I would, but the thing is that Saliba missed the most important chunk of the season last year when Arsenal's crunch time to the title came. And yeah, he started well this year, you could say, against Haaland, but there was only 3 duels he contested in that game. 1 in the air, 2 on the ground, Mr. Statman.
So at the same...
Statman!
At the same time, there was another
Statman.
duel that we've all seen,
Yeah.
shoulder to shoulder, absolutely knocks him off his feet. For me, that really disrupted the entire game from Haaland. I think that shook him.
It was, and that was almost like a classical defender's moment.
Exactly.
But in the modern game, would that not be seen as a foul on the halfway line as the last man?
Never a foul,
So
that.
do you think William Saliba right now, if you've got him there, and I don't know whether you've got any more centre-backs in your list, but if you haven't, is he the best centre-back on the planet right now, then?
William Saliba is for me. Right now is
Best
the best
centre-back in the world for
I
you?
think he is, yeah. I think the level that he's playing at is absolutely incredible. I don't think there's any part of his game I'd go, there's a weakness in there.
I
On
agree.
the ball, defensively, in the air, there's just so much I like about it. Positionally, fantastic.
I agree, but I look at Ruben Diaz, and I think he, for me, is the standard bearer when I look at centre-backs. Complete defender, on the ball as well, I think very underrated as well. But I agree, I think Saliba's ceiling is incredible.
Most touches, passes and possession won for Arsenal in Premier League this season. Saliba, you mentioned Diaz there. Interesting to see if he appears. We won't...
We did speak to Saliba, didn't we? We asked him who's the best centre-back in the world, and he did say Diaz.
He did say that in a rankings.
Should have said himself.
Recognised real.
Yeah.
Maybe
since-
he's just being modest there,
Since the start of last season, of players that have made over 200 tackles, he's only been dribbled past 3 times. The best record of any player. That is pretty incredible.
Once again, we'll take Dave's word for it.
Yeah. Let us know if he's lied there. Let us know if he's lied. Who's next?
Next
Number
up,
8.
so this is a player that I had quite high. I had to reel myself back in. I'm just a massive fan of him. And it's difficult to say because he plays for Manchester City, but Julian Alvarez is just, he's a superstar in the making. Won the World Cup, won the Champions League. The guy's 23 years old. This season without Kevin De Bruyne, he has really stepped up.
Yeah.
Went to the Red Star City game. he was phenomenal in that match. Was directly involved in 15 shots for one player. Absolutely outstanding. I think he's destined for the top. You know, him and Haaland as a front two it would be so difficult to play against.
Do you think he is underrated, in fact, because obviously plays in the same team as Haaland, and Haaland had a phenomenal season, but if you actually look at great goal scorers in the Premier League, and Haaland's one, he's close to being second, isn't he? But it doesn't get maybe the credit because he plays in the same team.
Absolutely, and I think last year, him being kind of that squad player in the City team kind of took it off. But I think you look at the World Cup last year, he wasn't starting in that Argentina team. The way he came into that team, making a difference, you can't underestimate the impact that had at the World Cup for Argentina, and obviously Messi going on to win it. But then this season, how he started, it's like he's on a mission to prove I'm not just the Robin to Haaland's Batman. I'm here to be the main man myself.
But as well with that, I think he defends very, very well. It's something that we don't speak with centre forwards. He's like ranked in the top 7% of strikers in European football for tackles won. That's a big, big part of what City needs. City need players that can press, that can be aggressive. Pep likes that. He's basically the perfect Pep Guardiola player, and he was 17 million quid.
Do you remember you almost feel like he's Aguero with that added work rate. He's got that finishing where he can finish from any angle, and you almost feel like Pep, one of the things he really wanted from Aguero was drop deep, give me the hard yards, do the pressing, and Alvarez does that willingly.
Next up,
we've got Harry Kane. Obviously, 2 Tottenham fans in here, got to keep him in the list. 30 Premier League goals last season. He's been directly involved in 12 goals so far in the Bundesliga. In 7 games, we can't ignore Harry Kane. We can't forget about Harry Kane because he plays in Germany.
No surprise.
These two trying their best, though. They are trying their
You clearly
best.
have ignored him if you haven't got him in the top 5, in my opinion.
There's
I
some
think that's
very,
quite low
very,
for
very good
Harry
players.
Kane, do you not think?
No, I think
Wow,
that's
you have him
a good spot.
in the top 5
I would
players in the
have him in
world.
the top 5. You think last year, if you look at it, 29 league goals in the Premier League in a really poor Spurs side, you would say as well. But then what he's gone on to do at Bayern, he's carrying their attack in my eyes. Still linking up play. You would have thought he'd kind of turned into a more pure goal scorer there, but the guy is still a machine.
No, I still think he's brilliant.
Still one of the best players in the world, in my opinion. And now I feel like at the Champions League level and things like that, if he can push Bayern over that edge, that's where all the doubting kind of stops. But I think that's a little low.
You'd have him higher, yeah.
I'd definitely have him
I'm
higher.
excited to see how high you go now with your 5.
It's no surprise, though. I mean, he scored 30 Premier League goals for Tottenham. He finished 8th in the Premier League last. It's no surprise he was going to rip up the Bundesliga, was it really?
No.
I mean, he scores goals wherever he goes.
Everywhere he goes, and even the way he just kind of started life there, you just feel like the team has kind of bought into Harry Kane. And they knew coming in, this is now the first time we have that Lewandowski replacement, that calibre. But number 7?
Number 7.
Okay, so who's at 6?
Brutal. At 6, Mohamed Salah. So we're going to put him ahead of him.
Another top player, go on.
Top player, but not top 5 in the world for me right now. 2023, directly involved in 30 goals. A goal or assist every 88 minutes. He's playing really good stuff. And he's arguably evolving a bit. He's creating a lot more. He's got a lot more assists. He's kind of dictating it a little bit differently. I think it's really nice to see a player grow into that next kind of version of themselves, and that's what Salah's doing. But I wouldn't put him in the top 5.
Wow.
Just on the cusp.
I think that's harsh as well. Salah and Kane for me should be top 5. I think Salah, especially in terms of the redemption arc that you just touched on there. I think 2022 AFCON qualifiers, lost to Mane, lost the AFCON final as well. And you just felt like performances weren't there. But this year he's kind of evolved into a little bit more of a playmaker. He's seen outside of the boot passes. He's unlocking new tricks, and I really kind of respect that kind of growth later in your career as well. So for me, I think for that and the way he's carrying Liverpool's attack still, I don't think you can not say he's not top 5.
I can get
This is going to be a controversial top 5.
Kylian Mbappé scored 49 goals in 52 games last season.
Go on, Fuad, your face, you're not happy with this. What are you not happy about?
With Mbappé, so to caveat this,
he's not happy.
If Mbappé was in a better system, in a better team that worked well, that could play, you've got to remember he scored a hat-trick against Barcelona in the Champions League last season. I wouldn't put it personally down to him for him not having a top European trophy. As soon as this man moves to Real Madrid, as we kind of all expect, you know, he's going to be winning trophy after trophy after trophy. I agree potentially sometimes his attitude doesn't look great, but you can't argue with the amount of goals and things that he does with the football.
This is your most outlandish pick, in my opinion. Kylian Mbappé, 5th. For me, he's the best player in the world.
Okay.
Without a question.
Number 1 for you, he'd be.
Number
one
for me, yeah.
Okay,
I would have him number 1. I think you look at kind of who is the standard bearer for the new generation. I mean, you would say him and Haaland, but I would even say there's a gap between him and Haaland. I think the technical ability, the physical, and even now you're kind of seeing him step into more of a leadership role for France and for PSG.
Finish against the Dutch yesterday.
The types of finishes we're talking about here.
I get that.
And I know some of the other players on this list, and I'm thinking, how have you got them over this guy? Because this guy, for me, is a truly generational player. And when you talk about guys who are wonder kids from 18 to 21, who has done what he has done, you're talking maybe R9.
But that's where he's at, right?
Only comparison.
World Cup,
like
of course.
Otherworldly.
Yeah.
At 18, tearing up the World Cup. And it's like, even this season, I feel like he might not have started in typical Mbappe fashion last year as well, but I just feel like that World Cup final performance alone, for me, I would have him number one.
He's still got 8 goals in 9 appearances this season. So
Yeah.
even when you're saying it might not hit the ground this season, he's compared to his own standards. Exactly.
But I think for me, it's about winning the trophies. And again, you know, the performance he put in the World Cup final, absolutely. But PSG in the Champions League last season, they were a lead balloon. They completely fell off. And you have to look at the talisman players of that side. And Mbappé didn't get them across the line, whereas players that I've got in my list are players that are performing at that level and making an impact in the biggest games. And that is the one thing I'd say about Kylian Mbappé. That's it. You know, look at the game against Newcastle United. He was pretty anonymous in that match, and that's why he's 5th and not number 1 right now. It's
Okay.
Mbappé was like he's massively peaked early on in his career. He needs the next iteration of Kylian Mbappé. That's what I want to see. That's what we all want to see. I don't think it's going to happen at PSG, and that may be out of his control.
Yeah.
So let's see you've got in 4 then to understand.
So
who you've got
4th,
above him.
we've got Vinicius Jr. Directly involved in 13 goals in the Champions League last season. No player was more. I think I would put Vinicius above Kylian Mbappé every day of the week.
Wow. But is that just based on the fact he's playing for Madrid and Kylian's playing for PSG?
I think he has an impact in big games. I think we can't ignore his quality. The way that he can carry, he can move that attack on. You're thinking Benzema's gone, he stepped up in...
I agree, but if Vinny was playing for PSG and Mbappe was playing for Real Madrid in the same systems they are now, would it not be a direct flip there?
But at the same time, they're not. So we can't look down that. We just can't.
I know, but
because it changes the dynamic.
Ability,
It changes the dynamic because you're looking at a player that has got unbelievable potential for a team that's not winning stuff. Whereas Vinicius Jr. over the last few years is a Champions League winner. He's done it. He scored in the final against Liverpool. He won the Champions League for Real Madrid. There's that side of it where you've got to turn the high performances in a lot of games to the biggest stage. And that's
the biggest stage, though. Kylian Mbappé won the World Cup as a teenager. So
absolutely, but then I'm saying Kylian Mbappé right now. Right now. So Kylian Mbappé right now, I'd say Vinicius Jr. is above him.
Fuad, your thoughts on this? Because I don't think you're loving this list so far. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but...
Absolutely not. I think I agree with a lot of the things you're saying on Vinny. I think he might even be higher, in my opinion. I think he should be a top 3 lock at this point. He is... As you say, the improvements we've seen, I don't think you've seen it in a winger since maybe a Ronaldo, if you like, that kind of evolution of a player. But steps up in big moments, steps up for his country, steps up in finals, in moments when you really need your team to dig out with that little bit of X factor. He always kind of shows.
He's also been given the legendary number 7 Real Madrid shirt since Eden Hazard's retired.
Do you know what I think we should do with the top 3? I think we should reveal it all at once.
Oh,
yeah.
I want to
once.
Yeah. Go 3-2-1 because I actually want to see the
3-2-1.
Yeah, go put it all on at the same time so we can see.
Got to have Jude in there, surely. Yes, okay. 3, okay.
So Jude Bellingham at 3.
Wow.
Can I
Go on,
can I hear the explanation behind this? Because they're 2 players in the same team. And I'm looking at Vinicius Jr. in my eyes, I think Madrid fans would say is more important to their team. And it's more of a game changer to their team. I think, of course, maybe a bit of recency bias.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been sucked into the recency bias. This man's been, 10 goals and 3 assists in 10 games?
Phenomenal.
That's a better record than the Ronaldo brothers, than Benzema, than Zidane, than Raul.
Yeah.
The Ronaldo brothers,
Also,
Cristiano and
fans
Ronaldo.
absolutely love Jude Bellingham. They're all doing the celebration. I mean, they absolutely adore him.
Like, he has been unbelievable this year. He's probably been the best player in the world this season. The levels that he could take himself to are absolutely incredible. And I just think right now, I can't argue with him being that high.
Do you think Bellingham the best player in the world this season?
I'd say this season he's probably the best player if we ignore the end of last season, which I've taken into consideration. I think it's very important.
Okay.
Recent honours.
And then what? 1 and 2.
1 and 2.
So this one's really tough because I've got it I've changed the way that I had it.
No. Oh,
you change it back.
Last-minute changes.
Let's change it back. So this is
Your list,
Stick
whatever
what
you
you had.
I kind of.
Go on, go with what you...
So we're going to change it round. We're going to go Rodri second. I'm going to go with Haaland number 1.
Oh, because you had, be honest, you had...
I did have Rodri there because I think Rodri is the best midfielder in the world by a mile at the moment. I think his game is absolutely brilliant. You look at last season in the Champions League, the Champions League final, scored a goal. But that's not his game. He's a guy that controls the tempo of Manchester City, most touches in the Champions League last season. For the team that wins, that plays the best possession football, he's a massive part of it. This season, he's creating chances. You know, shot creating actions in the Premier League. He's number 2. Like, his game is so complete. He's so dominant in the heart of midfield.
Yeah.
And that's why I consider putting him number 1. But I can't ignore that Haaland's scored 44 goals in 43 Premier League games.
Fuad,
and
your thoughts
12
on
in
that list
12
then?
and 11 in the Champions League.
Yeah, it's not bad, is it?
I agree, but I think in terms of performances, I don't think Haaland has really been there this season. As you say, against Arsenal, fairly quiet. I think had a couple of games where he's missed a few big chances. I think Rodri, for me, should have been the number 1 because the level he's performing at, when you're talking about best players in the world this season.
So you'd have Rodri, as just to clarify, as number 1, current best player in the world right now for you?
Right now, for this season, if you're talking, he is playing at a different level. You just feel like, as you said, he's controlling games, but then now he's adding that kind of... City dominate the game so high up, it almost allows him to just be that extra attacker from deep in midfield, and he's just popping up with these long shots.
That's what I always think, but at the same time, I don't think we can ignore that Haaland's broken most records in the Premier League for most goals in a single season. There's just too much that Haaland's done, and this season he's still scored 8. He's still top scorer in the Premier League. Still got 8 goals.
Do you think, though, the current gap between a Haaland and Mbappe is 4 players like that? That gap, I feel like that gap is too big.
At the moment,
and I would probably have it the other way round.
So what, you'd switch Mbappe for Jude?
I'd probably have Mbappe
Number
first and Haaland maybe 5th.
Oh,
wow.
Let's throw it to the people at home.
Yeah, exactly.
What do you think?
Let us know what you think.